listening to Two Babies in a Business, a podcast about business, marketing, growth strategy, staff, clients, babies, marriage. I'm Christina. This is my husband, Peter. We are the founders and leaders of CIPR Communications. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. I feel like we're recording this on a Monday morning. Monday mornings are a little bit crazy usually, but I'm glad we're making time for this.
Yeah, we need to.
I had a funny side story before we start, but I was saving this because I haven't told you yet. But the kids were working in like my office upstairs, and I had it on mute for the longest time during a client meeting. And right when I wanted to start talking, I unmuted, and one of our children, who shall remain nameless, yelled, "Mommy, I have to poo," as soon as I hit unmute.
Nice.
Anyways, I muted quickly right after that again. Good. But those are the joys of
the COVID lifestyle.
It's true. Anyways, on a completely different note, or maybe the same note, we're still talking about building marketing strategies. And today, you and I wanted to focus in on business goals and why they're important.
Yeah, and I think it's important at the onset to talk about the fact that we're going to be talking about business goals, not marketing goals, and they're different. And it's really important, first of all, to understand what you want to achieve for your business and to really have a clear picture of what your business goals are, because that actually will help drive your marketing goals and your marketing strategy, right? So you really got to start at the highest level before you're ready to drill down. So I just wanted to maybe mention that before we get going.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? In talking to some clients. And I think there are often businesses who are quite sophisticated in their marketing and have figured out that obviously your marketing goals need to be consistent with your business goals. I think as a business starts out and you're starting to think about marketing, I think often we get sidelined by number of mentions on social media or an influencer saying something, but we don't necessarily relate those metrics and those KPIs back to what we're really trying to do in our business. So, is it to sell X amount of products? Well, then does it matter if an influencer says it or not? Do you know the return on investment there? If you have, I think about early days of, the client shall remain nameless, but a destination marketing organization that we worked with. And one of their marketing metrics was around number of followers that they had. And we did a social media audit for them early on. And I looked through all these followers, and they had a huge number. They had done great at growing their channels. But again, thinking about a destination marketing organization, your key audience is external, because your business goal and your driver is obviously to get people to your destination. And there was an over 50% number of people that actually lived within the destination that were following them on social media. So there was this immediate disconnect between what they were achieving in marketing and what the business was trying to achieve. And I think it was the first time that they actually, again, sophisticated marketers, but the first time they actually went, oh, yeah, I guess there's a disconnect there.
I'll just make one more comment, is that in my sales experience, it actually blows my mind how few companies actually have really clear business goals. You start asking questions like, I don't know. It's like, okay, all right. So it's actually kind of wild to me, but it's, I guess, the reality. And a lot of businesses are just going on their day to day and just trying to get through. And and maybe it's the times. Maybe it's harder times now and people need to be much more focused, and they didn't need to be for it, because frankly, running a business in Alberta 5 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever, was probably a lot easier than it is now.
Right.
Anyways, let's dig into it. But it always blows my mind when business owners have literally no idea what they're trying to achieve.
So business goals, you're in a lot of these conversations with clients. So what do you say to people? How do you approach it?
Yeah. So, I mean, one is that business goals is beyond just growth, but obviously growth is probably one of the most important business goals, right? And for me, it's about getting a sense of like, are you a company with a growth mindset, or do you have growth, firmly in your sight when you're talking to a marketing agency? And sometimes I talk to companies and it's like, really doesn't seem like they have much desire to grow or much kind of put much thought into it. And sometimes mid sales conversation, I'll literally say like, why did you take this call with me? Well, and sometimes I get an answer. Like last week, I had a really nice discussion with a guy who, frankly, we just can't help. And he literally said, well, your telemarketing person was very, very convincing on the phone. So, all right, cool. Like I'll have a chat with you, but anyway, so I mean, really, it's about, we talk about SMART goals all the time and smart growth. And so the acronym that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with is the SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, assignable, relevant, and time-based. And I think the easiest way to talk about this conversation is maybe to use CIPR communications as an example, and we'll be completely transparent with some of our goals and some of our business growth goals, because really they drive our marketing decisions. And we are, right now we're about $1 million a year organization. And our goal by Q4 2022 is to be a $3 million organization. And our goals are pretty, specific in the sense that like we want a 20% profit margin is what we're going for. And so that automatically starts to dictate a lot of things, just those two numbers alone. If you think about it, it's like, okay, we need to grow. So we need to invest fairly heavily in marketing and sales. But we also need to grow profitably. So it'll impact the types of clients we actually have to go after and the types of work we want to go after. And we get more specific than that in our growth goals, in our business goals. 100 retainer clients at $1,000 to $2,000 per month, 20 projects at a time at $10,000 per project. Like that's when we get to the end goal of that $3 million, right? So that really starts to drive everything, right? And it really starts to change the behavior of your organization. It changes the behavior of your sales team. But we have some other goals that are outside of that growth, and things like being recognized as a top employer in Alberta. That's something we've identified as a team that's important to us. And so it's like, okay, you want to grow fast, you want to grow big, you want to do lots, but you need to grow at a pace that you're not going to burn out your staff, right? And you need to think then about your human resources. We want to be recognized for our work, so we're going to be applying for a bunch of awards over the next few years for websites, web marketing awards, things like that, right? So these are all business goals of ours, and they all drive to the end goal, which is the growth and the profit and all that kind of stuff. But they are kind of things that dictate the types of things we do as an organization, right? And really everything I just kind of named, and I'll sort of throw this out there as a recommendation for people, but there's a great book called Traction. And so we are a traction organization, which is essentially they have a system and a process for really kind of defining your goals as a business to really be strategic. So if your goal by the end of 2022 is X, then let's start working backwards. What do we need to do this quarter? What do we need to do in the next 6 months? What are those big, they call them rocks? What are those big things you need to do to, sort of move the ball forward so that you can get to those big goals, right? And then in the traction, it's called the vision traction organizer. There's also a 10-year goal. And those 10-year goals, for CIPR, again, just to talk about us to give context is, Christina and I want to in 10 years be largely out of the business day to day, right? And so again, that drives our business decisions as to our hires, how we train, how we position, how we speak to staff. Like, so, it really sort of kind of gets you thinking about your organization when you really have good business goals in a very holistic way. And it helps you sort of make the right decisions now so that you can meet those goals in the future.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when we start an engagement with a client, specifically new clients, and whether it's a website project or building a marketing plan or a digital marketing blueprint, we always start with these business goals. And you do have a few folks that'll go, oh, well, like I just wanted a website. And I mean, usually as a part of your sales process, that person doesn't necessarily make it all the way through to the other end to my side. But from an operational perspective, we always start with those conversations there. And it's so, for me, rewarding to kind of show that line for the client, that like, we're an agency that cares about your business goals, because at the end of the day, if you're the marketing manager reporting back to leadership, uh, they care about the business goals. They don't necessarily care about your marketing goals. But if your marketing goals are tied directly to your business goals, then you've made an easy win.
Yeah.
I think the other big piece of business goals is buy-in. And I think that's a stage that we've seen clients who end up being quite successful. And even I would say in our history as an agency, when we have buy-in from the larger team, or if you as our visionary have buy-in from me as the integrator, things work seamlessly. And when you have everyone at the table for a conversation about business goals, and your leadership team buys in, and the rest of the organization buys in, and the rest of the organization has a clear line of sight into what those business goals are, the marketing program becomes so much more successful. I can't count the number of times where we sit with a marketing manager and, they're trying to get us to, in kind of after a campaign's been completed, tie the achievements of a campaign to a business goal that we didn't even know existed. Right. Whereas if those would have been kind of transparent from the get-go, you build it around it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess kind of the other thought I have about this is that, like, despite, I've named, so, I said, hey, we want 100 retainer clients at 1 to 2K per month, and things change, right? And I'll say again, in our business, now we're talking to some bigger clients with bigger retainers. And like, it's like, hey, there's a great opportunity here that I think we can really capitalize on. And so maybe, there's less clients with bigger retainers, and that's okay, right? It's okay to sort of adjust and sort of, play around with your goals. But I think if you're big, I think they call it the big, hairy, audacious goal or whatever. If you're big, kind of like you sort of have your North Star for your organization out there, all the details in between can kind of be hammered out and ironed out as you go and as you learn, as you get more sophisticated as a business, right? So, I think the goal of these goals isn't to sort of strap your business into some plan and be rigid and never change. It's to give you a North Star to work towards, and a vision, if you will, to sort of keep talking to your staff about, to get everybody rowing in the same direction. And then, some of those tactics and some of those specifics might adjust over time as you become more knowledgeable and sophisticated.
Totally. Well, there you have it. Building a marketing strategy, the most important place to start is your own business goals. So sit down as a team, hash those out, and then you can start talking about marketing. But that is it. But we'll keep talking marketing strategy in the next few episodes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.